these 15 Fortnite settings every player should know. It doesn't matter if it's 2024 or 2034, these settings will still be relevant. Not only to give you a competitive advantage by making the game easier, but also making it easier for you to win. Make sure you stick around for the entire video, because although you may know tip number 1 and tip number 2, you may not know tip number 8 or what they changed about some of these settings. I'm going to be showing you these settings with real game examples, not just talking about them. Before we get into it, if you could subscribe down below to help me reach 10,000 subscribers, but also for non-clickbait Fortnite content, I would greatly appreciate it. This first tip here is a game changer, and many players will have this on, but still every day players ask not only how to turn this on, but where this setting is. This setting is audio visual sound effects. What this does is allows you to see people's footsteps through walls, see gunfight before you can even hear it, or even show you chests in hidden areas. Now this setting is very overwhelming at first. It'll bring a lot of stuff up on your screen and can feel like a lot, but once you get used to it, it really does help you out. I can't tell you the amount of times where it's shown me where people are before I can even hear them, or it's just shown me chests when I need extra loot and I can't hear it yet. See how I can see the footsteps here? Can't even see the person or hear them. In order to enable this setting, where you want to go is into your sound settings. Scroll down a little bit, and maybe in a little bit of a different spot if it's a later season, and enable visual sound effects. This setting is super overpowered, and if you're not using it, you're playing at a massive disadvantage. Now this next setting may seem obvious to a lot of players, but you may not know this, because the amount of times I've played a game of Fortnite and someone from halfway across the world is in the wrong servers and been playing in my servers, and also because sometimes Fortnite has actually messed this setting up and it has bugged, putting you on the wrong server. This has happened to me a few times before, where Fortnite auto is not working correctly. For this setting, what you want to do is go into your game cog settings and make sure your matchmaking region is on your local server, not auto. If you don't know what this is, whatever the lowest number is, this will connect you to the closest servers to where you live, and you'll have less lag. Having auto sometimes means it will default to the wrong thing, say if there's a visual bug or a reading error on the servers. So make sure this is on a manual selection here. I know for some people they want to play on harder servers, but this is just not realistic. This next tip here is prime for showing you right now in the game when it's nighttime, but what you want to do is have a brightness buff. And what I mean by this is not having your brightness on the default settings. For example here, under the video settings, I have my brightness set to 125. Most people have this set to 100. This is a major disadvantage. Look how much darker the game is. If someone's hiding inside in the corner in a dark lit room, in a bush, or behind a tree, it can be really hard to see them, especially if they're wearing an all black skin. This will change depending on whatever your setup is, your monitor or your TV screen, for example, but having it from 105 to 125 is definitely a major advantage to seeing where people are. It may buff it and make them look a little bit gray and washed out, but this is a lot better than appearing just as your standard screen's color. These next settings here will apply to everyone. A lot of people actually won't have these on the correct settings. And these all have to do with gameplay settings. This first one is having your auto run on. I can move in the game without having any of my hands on the keyboard and mouse or controller. This does work for both inputs. The reason you want this on is rather than having to hold something down the entire amount of time, it frees up your hands so you can be better at shooting, better at just side to side movement, or aiming where people are at. To enable this setting, it depends if you play on keyboard and mouse and controller where this is. For keyboard and mouse, under your keybinds, you have to set this to a specific button here. If you're playing on controller, at the very top of the controller tab, you can turn auto run on, and this tells you how it works on the right section here. This next setting is auto open doors off. When I walk into a door, it doesn't automatically open. Now the reason you don't want this happening is you want to be able to fight near doors. If someone's on the other side of the door where you're at, you want to be able to open it up, shoot out, and close it, not accidentally opening it, giving the person free shots. Having better control of your environment will allow you to win more fights. Do note, if you do have this setting off, you can still door bash, which is sprinting into a door in order to open it, as I didn't press the open button then. To enable this setting, go under your gameplay settings, so the gear setting here, and turn off auto open doors. This next setting is a great one, especially off spawn. Now, I always say it's best to carry as many items as possible, but if you're carrying 2 snipers or 2 shotguns, that's probably not worth it, especially off spawn. So if you run into a shotgun and you want to pick up another shotgun, rather than it auto-filling to that next slot here, this setting will allow you to pick it up, without it autofilling to the next slot, dropping whatever is in your hand. This setting under the same gear menu setting is called hold to swap pickup, and you want this on. Having this on allows you to swap to items with holding down the button rather than it just filling to your next random inventory slot. Now this next one here is going to be user preference. It can help out a lot of people, but for me personally, I really dislike this setting because of its limitations. This is called preferred item slots. What this allows you to do is whenever you pick up an item for it to go into a certain spot. For example, if I was playing off spawn here and I went to pick up an assault rifle, it would automatically go in my third slot if that's where I prefer it to be. However, this has limitations. For example, for myself, when I'm playing Fortnite, if I have an SMG, it will go where my assault rifle goes. If I have an assault rifle, it will go where my SMG goes, the same slot. This setting only allows you to put one gun per slot, which in my opinion is a major disadvantage. In order to enable this setting, if you want to use it, which I don't like using it, you want to go into your game settings, you want to go to preferred item slots, turn it on, and then you want to go back to preferred item slots and pick which gun you want at each slot. For example, for myself, I would want my shotgun to be my first slot, SMG second, assault rifle third, sniper fourth, and then consumable 5. But this doesn't count for like movement items or utility items or everything in between. I think there's too many items for this setting to be worth it. And that's why I don't have it enabled, but for some of you who are still getting used to the game, you might actually really like this setting. This next tip here is really good for when there's new items in the game and you don't know how to use them, and a lot of players actually neglect this or turn this off, which does leave them at a major disadvantage. This setting is in your game settings, under the tutorial settings, and it is contextual tips on. Having contextual tips on will give you pop-ups for what to do for new items, which will allow you to have a better understanding of how to use them. This next one here is toggle sprint on. A lot of players don't like this. I really like this setting. I think it gives you an extra hand to use, and that essentially is when you hit the sprint button, you don't have to hold the sprint button. You can cancel this by using the same button, but this allows you to have a 3-hand in order to shoot, aim better, very similar to auto run. I highly recommend having this one on. This setting is located under your gear menu setting under movement towards the top, called toggle sprint here. Another setting here that you want to have on is tap to search / interact. You want to have this setting on. Tap to search / interact allows you to open stuff a lot quicker and a lot easier. Rather than having to hold down the button, for example when rebooting, hitting the button once will complete the action. I'll show you an example here of a chest. Now I did see this one in Zone before because my bot that I bought does scan stuff through walls. If I tap the button once, automatically opens up. I don't have to hold the button completely. Now this next batch of tips comes under a few categories. One of them comes under build mode and one of them comes under PC settings. Now I do recommend watching the PC ones because one day you might actually eventually get a PC and be playing on that. You can still play on controller on that, and actually if you play on controller on a PC, you'll be better than playing on a console on controller because PC has less input delay, meaning when you click a button, stuff happens faster. So I recommend giving this a little watch. But before we do that, I'm gonna load myself into a build mode match. So let's get into those last 4 tips here. This next setting here is confirm edits on release. Now, a lot of players have this on. You really want to be turning this one on because not only does it allow you to edit faster, it means you have to press less buttons, which we talked about before is a major advantage. For example, when I go to do an edit here, all I have to do is let go of what I've gone to edit and it automatically confirms. So I have to go into the edit menu, click it once, let go, automatically confirms the edit. Some players prefer to have this off, especially pro players, because it allows them to do some advanced things. But I think if you're not a pro player, have this one on. This one here, auto confirm edits on both reset and edit. So both of them. This means as well, when you go to reset and edit, for example, you don't have to confirm it. Also, it can go back to its original state. This next build mode one, most players should have on. If you have it off, you must have accidentally turned it off, or maybe your game had some bugged setting. This one is very important to have on, and it is under the same gear menu settings here under building, turbo building on. Now what this means is when you go to place a build, you can just hold down the button and it will continually build for you. You don't have to press for every single button. If you have this off, every single build you go to place, you have to press your mouse or your trigger or whatever button you have bound for it. These next few are for PC players. Number one, you want to be playing on performance mode. Yeah, the game looks a lot worse, but you'll get used to it over time and you won't even notice the difference. It will actually be better for you. Now, the reason you want to do this is not just so you have better FPS, but because it gives you a visual advantage. Now, if you don't know how to do this, you want to go into your settings menu here and you want to make sure that your rendering is on performance mode, not DX11 or DX12. And then if you want even more performance, you can turn everything down to low. Now, the reason you want this on is it gives you a visual advantage. The best example is during a content creator tournament, not a pro tournament, Michael Reeves was playing with Valkyrie and a bunch of offline TV and friends, and it looked like he was cheating because he was shooting at people that they couldn't see on their screen.
How do you even see them?
How are you seeing them through the bushes?
He's shooting them through a bush.
And the reason they couldn't see them is because the grass was too long, making the hill look bigger, not allowing you to see the heads. But if you played on performance mode, like Michael was, it gave him a massive advantage because he could see where those people are at.
My settings turned all the way down.
Oh, you don't see the leaves?
Some of the bushes are like not seen, you know?
He's full sweaty. He turned off the bushes.
Now, the one circumstance that performance mode can lead to your downfall is that you can't see shadows. Now, this has only occurred to me not in Fortnite in H1Z1, but once I was standing on the edge of a building waiting for someone to come out, they came out of the building, instantly sniped me, and the reason they knew I was there because my shadow was coming off the building, making a shape of a character. Now, if I had shadows on, I would have known that, but that is a very, very, very rare circumstance. This last setting here for PC is double movement. Now, this does automatically apply if you play on controller. And what it allows you to do is to run diagonally, meaning that if I hold my W and D key or my W and A key, I can move diagonally, which in the past you could only do on controller. This got turned off for me during chapter 5 and I had no idea. I used to have this setting on in chapter 4, so you want to check and make sure this is on. Now, I don't have mine optimized. I don't know what the optimized settings are for this setting, but in order to turn it on, you want to go to your keyboard and mouse settings here, not the keybind, scroll down and turn on custom diagonals. Having better movement in the game, it means you're less likely to get sniped and less likely for people to sneak up on you. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you think it's helped you out in any shape or form, make sure you subscribe down below after hitting that like button. As always, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye!